Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association and the Hare Krishna Society, which is synonymous. Our members are all Prabhupada disciples. And they're either new disciples, aspiring disciples, initiated disciples, but all disciples moving along on the path back home, back to Godhead, the spiritual world, where Krishna resides and conducts his eternal pastimes. And he is Bhagawan, possessor of all opulences, all beauty, all strength, all wealth, all knowledge, all renunciation. Krishna is the supreme destination for all of us. And in order to achieve Krishna consciousness, one has to take instructions from a bona fide guru. And that bona fide guru in this modern age is His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. No question of that. And if anybody has any doubt, it's because they don't understand Prabhupada's position, that he was an acharya. The term acharya means one who teaches by example. For example, we have Jayananda Prabhu and Aprakrita Prabhu, two devotees, servants of Srila Prabhupada, who taught by example, not by simple talk. Oh, actions always speak louder than words, Vijaya Pandit. That's how you become great. You follow the great. You follow their example. Think about it. Prabhupada comes to Toronto. Now, we had bought this building. We were on Gerrard Street. Ram Raghav, we were on Gerrard Street. It was like the Bowery of Toronto. And Prabhupada, when he first came in 1975, he stayed in a small apartment near the temple, and where all the bums and derelicts were living. It was called near Allen Gardens. And Prabhupada preferred to stay in this one bachelorette apartment so he could be close to his devotees, his disciples. I still remember going over to the room. I remember phone conversation he had with Govardhan in Detroit. They were moving ahead to buy the Fisher Mansion. So the Fisher Mansion was it is like a $30 or $40 million building nowadays. And back then, it sold for $300,000. Can you believe it? And Prabhupada thought, well, let's get this. It was in a very dangerous area. And he was having discussions. We were sitting in the room, a small group of us. And he was having discussions with the BBT in LA. And he was talking to us, and he made an offer to the Christian church. We had gone to the building prior. And when we showed up, the people at the Christian church were in shock. Oh my God, who are these freaks? We all had robes on. Prabhupada had the sandalwood pulp on his forehead. And we had these Christian people looking at us like they weren't sure where we came from. So nonetheless, what happened was, when he made the offer to the church people, the owners, First Christian Missionary Alliance, they said they'd rather burn it down and sell it to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. burn it down. Now, this is a cathedral. This is not just a little building. It's in the gateways of Toronto, two main churches that come down Avenue Road, side by side, and very prominent buildings, famous buildings. And somehow or other, we got turned around. Later, after we left, Prabhupada told me, or us, how can you buy a building if you have no money? We had no money. Everybody was dreaming, oh, let's buy a building, we have no money. So Prabhupada said, if you have no money, what can we do? He tried to lend us $300,000. Subsequently, I was appointed as the president. And then I went ahead and started a Sankirtan drive, Ram Raghava, to collect the money. And we went ahead and collected the money. We organized our team. It was a team of people that got it. It wasn't just one person. But I helped organize it and focus us to save money. And we got $125,000 in our bank account. And then, actually the story is amazing, how Krishna was involved in the whole episode that we eventually got this church. And then Prabhupada sent me a letter after we got it, and he said, it's a topmost triumph. You've got this building for Krishna. Now erect these signs. He wanted flashing Hare Krishna signs over the city so that when people came down on the main thoroughfare, they would chant Hare Krishna. And he said, well, use this building for preaching, a preaching center. And then Prabhupada came to Toronto. Oh my God, it was glorious. I couldn't believe it. Here was Prabhupada coming back to celebrate the acquisition of this building. And can you imagine, look, we're reading the diaries. Look what Prabhupada was in the Bowery. And then all of a sudden, somehow or other, we got this, by the mercy of Krishna, we purchased this cathedral in downtown Toronto, one of the most important cities in the world. And Prabhupada comes. I've got pictures. I've got some pictures here of him when he first came in the building from the staircase. Nandi was there. All the devotees. There was a small group of us, about 30 or 40 devotees there when he first showed up. And I have a picture of him when he went and we started to build the altar inside the temple room. Because the temple room, it's 25,000 square feet on one floor. So we had a big hall, and we built a miniature altar and temple within the church. And Prabhupada came. There were no decorations on the front of the facade. But we had an altar, and we had our deities in there, Radha Kirchor Gopinath. Prabhupada came, it was so majestic. Oh my God, fabulous. Now, what happened was, we didn't know how to prepare the quarters for Srila Prabhupada. There was a separate tower, and in the tower, there was a washroom, and a bedroom, and an office. So we turned that into Prabhupada's quarters, and we completely messed up the whole arrangement. Totally. It was a big mistake. I had him in a desk, and we had no proper sitting place for him. So when he got to the temple, he accepted everything so nicely, politely. And it seemed like things were going fine. So around 5 o'clock at night, I got a call from Hari Sori, his servant, to come and see him. So I went up to the office where Prabhupada was staying, and he said to me, okay, we have to change everything. This is not acceptable for Prabhupada. I thought, oh my God, I've completely offended our guru. Not really offend out of intent, but of circumstance. So we went ahead and we changed everything. We took the high desk, we chopped the legs off Raghava, and then the women started to redesign the asana, the sitting place for him, and cushions and the bed, and we went on a huge marathon overnight. I can remember Gaudiya, my godbrother, he worked diligently that time, and we got everything set up, and the next day it was all properly done for Prabhupada. And then all the people were coming to me. They wanted to see Prabhupada. There was one devotee, Batra, Mr. Batra, who we got initiated. I had recommended him for initiation. He had made some help with us. He helped guarantee a mortgage, a loan for $60,000, because the church cost $450,000. And, we had raised $125,000, and then I got the vendors to take back a first mortgage for $250,000. That's a whole other story later. We had a mortgage crisis. They tried to foreclose on the building, but it didn't happen. So anyway, we're there, and everybody wants him to come here and there. And Prabhupada was sick. He had a toothache, which was causing him a whole lot of pain. If you see pictures from then, you'll see his face was swollen. And he was on a very rigorous schedule, constantly moving, constantly preaching, traveling. And you'll see when we read the diaries how he was, how he changed in the diaries today, how his pace changed as he started to gain momentum. So I was called up to his room. I went. Prabhupada was sitting behind the desk, the chopped down desk, and I came in through the door and just bowed down just at the door. I was careful not to even go in the room. I just stayed at the door and got up after I paid my obeisances. And then I started to discuss with Prabhupada the schedule. And because I knew he wasn't feeling well, I thought, I don't want to put this stress on our guru of all these people that wanted to see him, and he had to go here and go there and do this and do that. Because, of course, we've this great celebration. Prabhupada's come to his palace for Krishna. It was Prabhupada's building. It wasn't ours. And I said to him, I apologize, Srila Prabhupada, for all of the mistakes that we made with the seating. And I'm sorry that people want to see you so much. I don't want to cause you any stress or difficulty. And he looked at me, Ram Raghava, and he said, that's all right. Just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. I was like, whoa. Made all these mistakes. And here, my guru is telling me, just tell me what you want me to do. There's a lot of meaning in this. How Prabhupada treated his disciples that were able to work for him and help him spread the Krishna consciousness movement in a big way, very big way. Of course, none of us really saw that, but he could see it. And subsequently, I realized that Prabhupada was acting in pure humility, everyone, as an acharya, someone who teaches by example. That's our business. All of you are leaders. All of you in this group. You're acharyas, or you're training to be acharyas, not of an institution, but as students of example for other people to become Prabhupada disciples. Think about it, please. This is very important that you take the responsibility. We take the responsibility to set example like Prabhupada did for us. This is leadership. Yad yad acharyati shreshtas tat tad evataro jana. Sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Whatever great men do, common men will follow. And whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. This is how we teach. Not by precept, by example. Like Aprakrita, like Jayananda, and some other devotees that were successful on this path. Back home, back to Godhead. Teach by example. And today we're going to read from the diaries some of the rules and regulations that Prabhupada had. Here we have, I wanted to show you the budgets, how he was meticulously logging his income and expenses, and just see the amount here, how it's evolved from $5 and $8. Here we see an amount, $2,176.11. Interesting. So this is on November 1st, 1966. Go ahead, please. Next page. There's Prabhupada back there at the DD installation in 1968 at 26 Second Avenue. So step by step. Now this particular note is a very famous note for us. And I can say this, that back in the day on Gerrard Street where we lived on the third floor, we had this posted up on the wall. So this was the rules that Prabhupada hand wrote on how we were supposed to live in the ashram. And these are very important and succinctly explain the discipline of a devotee under the direction of the spiritual master. Notice. 1, all initiated devotees must attend morning and evening classes. Must attend. Just like we insist. If you want to become initiated, you have to come to these classes 3 times a week. And try to come for the whole class, not just when you feel like it or don't feel like it. You come at the beginning, you stay to the end, and then you go on your way and do what you've got to do. Prabhupada's saying you have to come, must attend these programs in order to become qualified to understand this philosophy and eventually get initiated, because that was our goal. 1 must not be addicted to any kind of intoxicants, including coffee, tea, and cigarettes. What to speak of marijuana or LSD, which he was very familiar with when he was in the Bowery, because he had Paul Murray was taking acid, and Prabhupada was afraid that he would be physically assaulted by this Paul Murray, who was a bit crazy. People are crazy these days. They're still crazy. Actually, they're more crazy now than they were then. The Kali Yuga's become. The next rule, they are forbidden to have illicit sex connections. Next, must be strictly vegetarian. Of course, Prabhupada's written this at a time when he was teaching people about Krishna Prasadam. And it evolves. The preaching that he was giving, administering to his students evolved as things went on. So at one time he writes this, you can't just say it's just this. There's more to it. But put it in time and place and circumstance, everyone. You have to use your common sense here in becoming a Krishna conscious man or woman. So he wanted when you eat prasadam, automatically you eat vegetarian. And he called us Krishnatarians. That's what we are. We eat food offered to Krishna only, and not through bogus gurus. That's going on. The question is that prasadam? And that's for another discussion. Should not extensively mix with non-devotees. Do you hear that? Non-devotees. What is the business of the non-devotee? Prajalpa niramagraha. That's their business, to talk nonsense. And that'll pollute the mind of the devotee who's serious about following Prabhupada's instructions. Prajalpa, sound pollution. It actually drives a devotee crazy to have to listen to it. A lot of times when you talk to non-devotees, that's all they do is talk nonsense. And you have to stick handle, up here we're hockey players, you have to stick handle through the conversation to try to get to the essence. Okay? Be tolerant, be patient, but don't be affected by their nonsense. Sound pollution. Should not eat foodstuffs cooked by non-devotees. What does that mean? Restaurants. Going out and eating in restaurants. This is not what we do. When we were living in the temple, we never even considered going anywhere to eat except for the morning and evening prasadam at the temple. For years and years, never. Actually, just so you know, I had never been in my life up to about the age of 34 years old. I had never been in a coffee shop, Ram Raghava. Never even been in one. So we never ate any food cooked by karmis, because you eat that food, they cook their karma into that food, and it affects you as a person. So Prabhupada's telling us, don't eat foodstuffs cooked by non-devotees. Look at that. Some of these organizations that are distributing food, the food is cooked by non-devotees. They're out behind smoking a beedi and then going back into the kitchen and cooking a so-called prasadam. Should not waste time in idle talks. Here we go. Prajalpa niramagraha. Nor engage himself in frivolous sports. Should always chant and sing. Here's the affirmative. Should always chant and sing the Lord's holy names. So back then we used to go out on the street, as you know, Yashodanandana Prabhu, we go out for 7-8 hours straight on Yonge Street and chant Hari Nam day after day, week after week, year after year. Some people have never even lived in an ashram. They don't know what it means. How much you're supposed to surrender, sacrifice everything. Everything. All your money, all your time, all your effort to one sole purpose, to please the spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It was a great time, by the way. Very enlivening. We used to, when we would come back from Sankirtan in Toronto, we had a big kirtan hall. We have a lot of musicians that had joined, and we would have the most enthusiastic kirtans at night. They'd go on for 1, 2, sometimes even 3 hours. We would chant as a group. And those that chant together stay together. Chant and sing the Lord's holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. So we're thanking all of you as well. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this. We appreciate it so much. There's only a few of us. What can you do? And he's put the address in his own handwriting, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, November 25th, 1966, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And what's the last word? Acharya. Prabhupada taught by example, and that is the message for today. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, led by Srila Prabhupada, and then we're going to have our class with the wonderful, our most treasured possession, the Association of Yashodanandana Prabhu, here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Classes, Bhagavatam, Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Haribol.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Vandana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Vandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Pramad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridham ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Ito Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Ito Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya Narayanam namaskritya Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest Srimad Bhagavatam after offering respectful obeisances, one, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. As we do every week, we will be reciting a few selected verses from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, second chapter, which explains the meaning and the transcendental benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Yadanudyasina yuktaha karma granti nibhandanam Chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim. Intelligent persons do cut off the internet of the knot of reactionary work by remembrance of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not give attention to his message? Shushrushoho shraddhadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. O the twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a standard of great service is done, and as the result of such great service, affinity in the messages of Vasudeva is made possible. Shrinvatam svakatah Krishnaha punyasravana kirtanaha hridyantastoya badrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta prayeshu vabhadrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Tadara justamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaye chetaye terana viddam stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in a mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in a mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshaya shiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvari. The knot of one's heart is thus pierced, and all misgivings are cut into pieces. The chain of fruitive actions are terminated along with the seeing of oneself, the dominating factor. We will proceed with our selected verses today. Today we will be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 17. It should be noted that this reading is being conducted on the basis of the original first edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam, published from New Delhi, India in 1962. All English synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Prema atibara nirbinna pulaka anga ati nirbritaha ananda samplavelena na pasyam ubaya mune. Prema, love. Atibhava, excessive. Nirbinna, extra distinguished. Pulaka, feelings of happiness. Anga, different parts of body. Ati nivritaha, being fully overwhelmed. Ananda, ecstasy. Samplable, in the ocean of. Lina, absorbed in. Na, not. Apasyam, could see. Ubayam, both. Mune, O Vyāsadeva. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Vyasadeva, at that time being excessively overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became distinguished, being absorbed in the ocean of ecstasy. I could not see both myself and the Lord. Purport. Spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. We can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Nārada Muni. Each and every part of the body or senses have their particular part of function. After seeing the Lord, all the senses became fully awakened to render service unto the Lord, because in the liberated state of the senses from mundane contingency, they are fully efficient in serving the Lord. As such, in that transcendental ecstasy, it so happened as if the senses have become separately enlivened to serve the Lord. It being so, Nārada Muni lost himself to see both himself and the Lord simultaneously. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shwanyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punah Punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Durishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarabhata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Satakaromi Swam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We had the good fortune in late 1972, in the month of December, to be with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada in Bombay, India, as it was called at that time. Now it's called Mumbai. And Srila Prabhupada was giving lectures and receiving different guests. So when we first saw Srila Prabhupada, he was very curious to hear about the preaching in South India. We had gone to Bangalore in the summer of 1972, and we also had returned there in the fall of 1972, made life members. We were collecting for Srila Prabhupada's Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. So when we first saw Srila Prabhupada, he was very interested to hear how we were preaching in South India. Prabhupada was quite aware that South India was a pretty unique preaching field because many people are fairly educated. They know Sanskrit. There's a lot of smartas, mayavadis, impersonalists, and many different kind of Vaishnavas. So we were explaining to Prabhupada that we were often quoting from his books, and especially from the Brahma Samhita. So Prabhupada asked us, so what do you quote from the Brahma Samhita? And Guru Kripa Swami at the time explained to Prabhupada, well, we quote that first verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. And we also quote that verse, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyaminatishtan, which explains the pretty unique position of Lord Krishna as the origin of all incarnations. And Prabhupada looked at us and said, so you like this Brahma Samhita? And we both said, yes, Prabhupada. I says, if you bring me a copy, I will record for you a special recording of Brahma Samhita. So we hurried up, we got a copy and presented to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada started to record. He started from the first verse, Ishvara Paramakrishna. Then he went to text number 29, the Chintamani. And when he got to the verse, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, which is a main verse that Prabhupada often quoted, Prabhupada started to cry. He had tears that were flowing liberally from his face. And we were a little stunned because this Prabhupada many times was pretty grave almost stoic in the way he was presenting the philosophy. He was very authoritative, giving a lot of Sanskrit and Bengali quotations, but generally he was very grave, very, very serious. In this particular instance, it was quite amazing how Prabhupada was engaged, when not engaged, but he was experiencing the kind of ecstasy that we're describing here in this verse. Prabhupada says, spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. So this was quite an amazing experience. And as Prabhupada afterwards, he kept explaining how this Brahma Samhita was very, very much favored by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered the Brahma Samhita in the state of Kerala in South India, he's explaining that there is no higher scripture than the Brahma Samhita. All the Vaishnava conclusions are described in that exalted literature. We also know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arranged to have a copy of this Brahma Samhita, the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita, to bring back with him to Jagannath Puri. And also later on, he got a copy of the Krishna Karnamrita of Vivamangala Thakur. But especially this Brahma Samhita is very special. In our Sampradaya, there's a commentary by Jiva Goswami. There's also another commentary by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And as we know, is Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's spiritual master, also made a very detailed commentary on the Brahma Samhita. So this literature is very special. And it's also very nice for recitation. Personally, in 1976, I was in Vrindavan after we had returned from Chandigarh, where there was a very nice preaching engagements with His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And one morning, I was singing verses from the Brahma Samhita while the deity worship was going on. And one of Srila Prabhupada's servants came to see me and said, Prabhupada wants to see you. And I thought I was going to get very severely chastised by Prabhupada. So I was very apprehensive and worried that Prabhupada was not going to be very happy with me. So I went and paid my obeisances. And Prabhupada asked me, so was that you that was chanting there? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. So you were chanting this Brahma Samhita? I said, yes, Prabhupada. He says, oh, that is very nice. So you stay in Vrindavan and you teach the Gurukul children and devotees how to chant like that. And the story behind that is that in 1975 in Vrindavan, during a morning walk, Karandar, the famous devotee who was originally appointed as a BBT trustee by Prabhupada and who did such tremendous service for the mission, Karandar was on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. And we were there, and Prabhupada came near the Madan Mohan temple. And he pointed out to Karandar, he says, you know, this temple here was constructed even before your country was founded. This is a very special place. And at that time in the morning, for those of you who are familiar, there's a temple in Vrindavan called the Ranganath Temple. It is a temple of the Sri Vaishnavas, followers of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So they sing what is called the Suprabhatam, which are Sanskrit prayers and hymns to glorify Lord Vishnu. And it's a very melodious form of Sanskrit chanting. So Prabhupada was listening to that. This is, can any one of you learn to chant like that? And none of us knew how to chant like that. So when I went back to South India, at that time I was traveling with Achyutananda. So I made some effort to, there is one devotee named Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya who was very friendly to the movement and who made many life members for Srila Prabhupada. And eventually he also met Prabhupada personally in 1976. This Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya showed me how to chant. And I was also listening to tapes of Srila Prabhupada chanting. So in 1976, to fast forward, when I was chanting the Brahma Samhita, Srila Prabhupada gave me that instruction to stay there and teach. The point being, not so much that I'm not a special devotee, I'm still trying to become, I consider myself an aspiring devotee, that someday, some lifetime, I may become a real devotee like Jayananda or Aprakrita. The point is that Prabhupada gave so many important instructions based on this Brahma Samhita. If you carefully study the use of Srila Prabhupada's Sanskrit quotations, so many times he's quoting from this exalted literature. And we know that if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself told us that there's no higher scripture than the Brahma Samhita, it is very important. It is not difficult to chant. It is very melodious. I know on YouTube, there are many devotees who have rendered many beautiful versions of this Brahma Samhita chanting. Srila Prabhupada himself has chanted many times different verses from this Brahma Samhita. Very, very special. I wanted to tell another story. In 1977 in May, when I had the good chance of being with Srila Prabhupada, one time he says, if you ever feel any kind of problem or major difficulties, try to remember the prayers of Queen Kunti to Lord Krishna from the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada said, these are very powerful prayers. If you remember these and chant these, all problems will go away. All problems will be vanished. For those of you who come to the Chaitanya Charitamrita reading, we read also some selected verses from the Adi Lila, chapter 1, from text 18 through 22. And one of these verses describes, but by remembering the spiritual master and the various deities of Lord Krishna, Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, and Radha Gopinath, that all difficulties will be removed. All difficulties. So this is the power, the blessings. Jai, this is very nice. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. You can go ahead a few more verses. Go ahead, please. 19, 20, 21. Go ahead, please. More. Another one. Okay, here we go. No, back. Tinera smarane ai vigna vinashana, anayase ai nijavanchita purana. Let's read the translation. This is very important. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Now, this is very important because sometimes in the practice of bhakti, the question comes up, well, we have so many problems. Somebody may say, well, I have a job, I have family, I have wife, I have kids, I have friends. I've got so many responsibilities. I've got to drive to work and back. So there are so many complications of dealing with the material world. I can remember personally, I was working for this law firm. It used to take like 25 minutes to a half hour to get there in the morning. I would drive there fairly early. But in the afternoon, late afternoon, when you come out, it would take more than 2 hours to get back in bumper-to-bumper traffic and this exhausting, nasty freeways around Los Angeles. So this is the material world. And I'm sure many of you have reasonably similar situations wherever you are in these various cities of Kali Yuga. It is not easy. But here the blessing is given by Krishna Das Kaviraj by remembering these transcendental deities and the spiritual master. all difficulties will be removed. Because sometimes devotees ask, well, how can I function? How can I make progress? How can I deal with all of this? This is the answer. And that story of Srila Prabhupada instructing that if you remember the instructions of Lord Krishna to Queen Kunti, these are also very beautiful Sanskrit prayers. I believe that there are recordings on the internet of Prabhupada chanting a few of these verses. I believe it starts with the words Namaste Purusham Tvadyam. So if any one of you is interested, it is definitely very, very special. Because when we carefully study the nectar of devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Siddhu, we see that Rupa Goswami explains so many times in his book the power of offering prayers called Vandana. We read about the 9 practices of bhakti: Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Vandana means offering respectful prayers, respectful obeisances to the personality of God and in his devotees. One thing I want to address, because I know I've heard some people, oh, why does Vishwakarma and Yasoda go on about their experience with Prabhupada? They keep repeating the same stories. We've heard those before. Why are they doing this? Well, it's called Tadiya. In the Padma Purana, there's a description. Our Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnur Aradhanam Param. Of all the forms of worship, the worship of Lord Vishnu is the highest. Tasmat Parataram Devi, my dear Devi, but higher than that, Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Any association or worship of Tadiya, all the stories associated with pure devotees, all the articles that have been touched by a pure devotee, everything, this is very special. So these stories, although we keep telling them again and again, are not meant to bother anybody. It's simply meant to remember the precious association with his divine grace and how he was so careful. Here we go, the exact verse. Thank you, Ramaragava Prabhu. As stated in the Padma Purana, Aradhananam Sarvesham Vishnur Aradhanam Param Tasmat Parataram Devi Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Of all types of worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is best. And better than the worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotee, the Vaishnava. There are many demigods worshipped by people who are attached to material desires. Kama este ritagnyanaha prapadyanti anyadivataha. Bhagavad Gita 7:20. Because people are embarrassed by so many material desires, they worship Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, the goddess Kali, Durga, Ganesha, and Surya to achieve different results. However, one can achieve all these results simultaneously just by worshiping Lord Vishnu. As stated elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4:31-14, Yatataror mula nishechanena tripyanti taskanta pujo pasaka pranopaharasta yatendriyanam tateva sarvaranam achyutidya. Just by pouring water on the root of a tree, one nourishes its trunk and all of its branches, fruits, and flowers. And just by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfies all the limbs of the body. Similarly, by worshiping Lord Vishnu, one can satisfy everyone. Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian religious movement. Rather, it is meant for all embracing welfare activities for the world. One can enter this movement without discrimination in terms of caste, creed, religion, or nationality. If one is trained to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the origin of Vishnu Tattva, one can become fully satisfied and perfect in all respects. Now, this is a very important sentence. Because many times devotees will ask, well, I'm just beginning at this, I'm trying to make some progress, or I've been doing for a while, but there are so many obstacles and difficulties. Look what Prabhupada is saying here. If one is trained to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the origin of Vishnu Tattva, one can become fully satisfied and perfect in all respects. It's interesting to note, there is a video on YouTube where Prabhupada explained this. Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is very simple. He says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam, yome bhaktya prayachati. Just offer me a leaf, a flower, some fruit, some water, with a little devotion, and Krishna will accept it. Not very complicated, not very difficult, simply to follow the instruction of the pure devotee. And one shall also be very careful to avoid mental speculation, which is rampant with many members of the swamp to whom it may concern. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Yashodanandana Prabhu, for your wonderful recollection of these pastimes with Srila Prabhupada. And you did mention that we repeat these pastimes periodically because there are only specific pastimes that you have. In other words, you can't make up a pastime that wasn't there. The pastimes are what they are, and they carry great meaning and a learning from that experience, because the association of Prabhupada is a cherished thing in the heart of the devotee and the other people that are listening to these pastimes. And another point is that there seems to be a constant rotation of membership in our classes. In other words, if you look at the classes from a year and a half ago, there's a lot of change. So the people that are with us now are different than the people that were here a year and a half ago. So these pastimes are ever fresh for the new people that come to these programs and have a chance to associate with bona fide disciples of Srila Prabhupada, those that see him as Diksha, Shiksha, Guru for all of us. And I wanted to mention about today's verse, how Prabhupada is distinguishing between the ecstasies of the material world, the spiritual feelings and happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. We can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Nārada Muni. Now, Yashodanandana Prabhu made a very good point that Prabhupada was very stoic. Like, he never externally demonstrated any symptoms of ecstatic love, just occasionally, because obviously there are moments in let's put it this way, using this term, his career as acharya, his work in spreading Krishna consciousness, and how detailed his life was for all of us to learn about. So there are details. And then Yashodanandana was saying that when he was speaking the Brahma Samhita, which is a very elevated literature, the highest literature, describing the spiritual world, and his particular position as a pure devotee, that it may be possible that some ecstatic symptoms could manifest at some particular point in his career. But to actually take that role of demonstrating transcendental ecstasy in the performance of devotional service is not recommended. And what happened was this. And Bon Maharaj, who was the original, one of Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples, Bhaktisiddhanta, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, had sent him to England to preach. And he failed and went back to India. And subsequently, he was a prominent preacher. Remember, he was a sannyasi. Prabhupada wasn't. And he was sent, he came to Canada in 1974. And it was by circumstance that myself and my godbrother, Uddama Shloka, we got to meet him through Professor Joseph O'Connell, who was the head of Vaishnava studies at the University of Toronto. And he had invited him to come and speak at the university. So we drove over, we had an old Volvo. We drove over to Joseph O'Connell's house, and we got to meet him, and we were quite honored to meet him. We weren't really aware of anything per se in terms of Prabhupada's. We weren't really aware of the politics that had gone on in the Gaudiya Math after Bhaktisiddhanta's departure. So we were innocent, very innocent. We were like babes in the woods, with just no idea. So we went over, we paid obeisances, we felt very honored, and we invited him to come to the temple to speak at the Sunday feast on Gerrard Street. Okay. So this was also an innocent mistake, because we figured, well, he's a godbrother of our spiritual master. We should honor him with this invitation. And when he came to the temple, he gave the Sunday feast lecture to a group of people in the room. And then all of a sudden he broke down and started demonstrating tears of ecstasy in front of Radha Gopinath. Now it was recalled by some of my godbrothers that what we did, all of us brahmacharis, I think it was about 12 of us that were in the temple room, we got up and walked out. At least we understood this external manifestation of transcendental tears, so-called, by this person was not proper behavior. And we left. And we went out in the hallway. I remember standing out in the hallway by the staircase, and he was left in the temple room by himself crying in front of the East Indian people. And as a result, when Prabhupada heard this, he sent me a letter. And this is what the letter, did you find the letter, Ram Raghava? I sent it to you on how can I say, WhatsApp. It's there, I copied it. Let me see if I can get it here. I'll read it to you, everyone. November 9th, 1975. My dear Vishwakarma Das, please accept my blessings. I'm in due receipt of your letter dated September 3rd, 1975, with the enclosed statement about Bon Maharaj. So I have now issued orders that all my disciples should avoid all of my godbrothers. I'll repeat this. So I've now issued orders that all of my disciples should avoid all of my godbrothers, because Bon Maharaj had staged this. There you go. Slide down there. They should not have any dealings with them, nor even correspondence, nor should they give them any of my books, or should they purchase any of their books, neither should you visit any of their temples. Please avoid them. So why was this? Because it was apparent that in this particular circumstance, this Bon Maharaj had demonstrated this Sahajya tendency. Yes. And this Sahajyism has to be avoided. Therefore, when these people go around and imitate that there's some kind of incarnation of Lord Chaitanya, you see them. Pretending, posing, posturing. This Sahajyism has to be avoided. Otherwise, it will contaminate you. And we know who does that. I don't want to name names too much because people go, oh, there he goes, he's named. But the fact of the matter is, Radhanath does that. All of us know because we know him. You don't know him, but I do. So this type of tendency, not to target anybody specifically, this type of Sahajyism is a symptom of people who are pretending to have this advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, when in fact they are offenders at the lotus feet of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And just like Prabhupada sent the letter to me, avoid them, so the same is the situation now in 2000. Avoid these people. Do not read their books. Do not go to their temples. Do not do anything with them. Simply take shelter of the bona fide disciples of Srila Prabhupada in this society, the Hare Krishna Society, and the Prabhupada Disciples Association. So a real important lesson today for all of us to incorporate into our daily practices. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could further elaborate.
Well, thank you for this point. I know we've discussed this before, and this is a very important point. Yesterday, we discussed in some of these supplementary comments about what leads one to think or wants to become a reputed devotee or an avatar. We've seen this phenomena with various devotees who thinks that they've become very, very popular. They're seeking for name, fame, power, position, and they become bewildered. Now, people may say, well, where does Prabhupada talk about this? Recently one devotee said, well, didn't Prabhupada give any instruction or warnings about some of these potential problems? Because this is not everybody was there during Prabhupada's manifested presence, had the direct, could say, physical association. And when issues come up or concerns arise, naturally some legitimate questions come up. Didn't Prabhupada warn about this? Didn't Prabhupada say something about this? I'm going to read from a section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is from Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 17, text 185. Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 17, text 185 in the purport. This is where Prabhupada is talking about the behavior of Madhavendra Puri. Prabhupada is talking about different kind of Mahajans. And at one point he says, if you look in the purport, Prabhupada, Svavid Baharastrakare Samstuta Purusha Pashuhu Nayat Karama Pato Peto Jatunama Gadagrajaha. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, the deliverer of all evils, the deliverer from evils. Thus, on the material platform, animalistic leaders are worshipped by animals. Sometimes physicians, psychiatrists, and social workers try to medicate bodily pain, distress, and fear, but they have no knowledge of spiritual identity and are bereft of a relationship with God. Yet, they are considered Mahajans by the illusioned. Self-deceived persons sometimes accept leaders or spiritual masters from a priestly order that has been officially appointed by the codes of material life. In this way, they are deceived by official priests. Sometimes people accept as Mahajanas those who have been designated by Srila Vrindavana Das Thakura as Danga Vipras, impostor Brahmanas. Such impostors imitate the characteristic of Srila Haridas Thakur, and they envy Haridas Thakur, who was certainly a Mahajana. They make great artificial endeavors advertising themselves as great devotees of the Lord or as mystic hypnotists knowledgeable in witchcraft, hypnotism, and miracles. Sometimes people accept demons like Putana, Trinavarta, Vatsa, Baka, Agasura, and Denuka, Kaliya, and Pralamba. Some people accept imitators and adversaries of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Pondraka, Srigala Vasudeva, the spiritual master of the demon Shukracharya, or atheists like Charvaka, King Vena, Sugata, and Arhat. Such people have no faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they accept godless cheaters who present themselves as incarnations of God and cheat foolish people within the material world by word jugglery. Thus, many rascals are accepted as Mahajanas. So the point here that there are many, many dangerous pitfalls on the path of the practice of Bhakti Yoga. And the best remedy, the best medicine is to take shelter of the instruction of a self-realized soul, the original instruction, and not cherry pick. Now, we have discussed this yesterday with some people who are very quick on outlandish accusations of accusing other devotees or sadhakas of not presenting Prabhupada's teachings or deviating from Prabhupada's teachings. Now, before somebody makes these accusations, they should be very careful of their own positions. I'm not going to mention names in this program, but people should be very careful about the tendency for people to cherry pick and choose what they like and reject what they don't like, because some aspects of Prabhupada's teachings require careful and intelligent investigation. Just like, let me give an example, like our good friend Raghava is a physician. Sometimes when a patient will come into the office, they say, I'm suffering from this, I'm suffering from that. They will describe various symptoms. And the physician knows by practical experience, we have to conduct some further investigation. We may have to do some tests, some blood tests, some labs. We may have to send you to get a, what they call MRI, or to make sure that there's nothing internally that may be troublesome, that may not be visible externally. So there is a deeper investigation. This is the same thing with many topics that Prabhupada mentions in his books, because some people think they will take a statement out of context and start accusing other devotees of various statements which are totally inappropriate. This will be the subject of further discussions at some other point in the future. Try to open it up for further discussion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
I'm blocked.
Blocked?
Yeah, I can't.
We can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to mention about leadership because you were talking about that. And I had an interesting conversation with Rama Raghava yesterday in regards to Donald Trump, who is now on a campaign to carry out his promises to his citizens. And it's not only American policy, but worldwide policy to try to stop the war in Ukraine and Russia and end the war in Gaza between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So he's on this campaign. That's all right. He's going to meet with the head of the Chinese government. He's going to go there and all the so-called people that are enemies and have face-to-face discussions with them. And it's interesting to note that I was listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and he said that devotional service to Krishna and to the spiritual master is inexhaustible. That means that you always maintain the benefit of that devotional service eternally. Even one step towards Krishna, Krishna takes 1,000 steps towards you. And in the case of Donald Trump, as we've mentioned before, he rendered direct devotional service to Srila Prabhupada and to Jayananda Prabhu in New York in 1976. Now, someone would say, well, that's not true. No, it is true. They were having trouble finding a place to build the carts for the Rath Yatra back then. I was at that event in 1966 where Prabhupada rode the cart down this Fifth Avenue and Jayananda was pulling it. You've seen pictures of it. And he worked tirelessly to assemble the carts back then. And it was all because that Donald Trump, they were having trouble finding a place to do this. And Donald Trump gave them the use of that land for no charge. And Ram Raghava mentioned to me that the devotees had prepared prasadam, real prasadam, and took the prasadam to Donald Trump's office. And the comment came back that he tried some of the food and he said he liked it very much. Inexhaustible. That is an important point. And think about it like this, Prabhus, further. We have this lady, Tulsi Gabbard, who has now become one of the most powerful women in the U.S. government. She's in charge of intelligence. And she's a war veteran and a devotee. And her parents were part of a group from Hawaii. The name is, what was the name of it?
Siddhaswarupa.
Siddhaswarup. Now, Prabhupada understood Siddhaswarup's ability as a devotee, and he allowed him to carry on preaching and accept disciples. Think about it. Now, this is a situation which is very unique. People don't know the history. And she was raised by these devotees. Her parents were devotees of Krishna. And Ram Raga was saying he saw her at a Rath Yatra some years ago, and she was chanting the Prabhupada pranams. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. So, what does that tell you? That somehow or other, this Krishna consciousness influence is entered into the White House in America by Prabhupada's arrangement. This is Prabhupada's potency. That Lord Chaitanya is blessing. Now they're using the expression, interestingly enough, Donald Trump is calling it the golden age. I've talked about it. The golden age. Well, yes, the golden age. Ram Raghava, how long will the golden age last?
10,000 years.
Exactly. 10,000 years. He's thinking, oh, the golden age means there's going to be make America great again. We'll get money and we'll drill, baby, drill, all this kind of thing to become materially affluent. But the real point is that real opulence means to become Krishna conscious. And by Prabhupada's influence from 1965, where we're recording the history in the diaries up to now, just see what's happened. That Prabhupada is still affecting the world by his preaching, by the spreading of this movement through all of his disciples. And this is a great victory. It's a great lesson for all of us. Sure, there may be this or that. We don't agree with these people on this point. But overall, see the overall perspective of really what's going on. This is a very great moment. And we, as members, Mr. Tom Chevley, be an example. Spread this movement where you are in Germany, where you are in Switzerland, where you are in Italy, where you are in France, where you are in Canada, where you are in America. Take up the banner and be an acharya. Represent Prabhupada. Follow the principles like we went through this morning in the class. And establish Krishna consciousness with the proper philosophical understanding that Prabhupada lives in his Vani incarnation. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could further elaborate.
Trying to unmute.
Yeah, there's an unmute.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is a very important point because devotees sometimes they ask, well, considering all the issues and problems we've had in the movement since 1977, how will Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement spread all over the world? Because the movement seems to be rather divided. It's been mired in various controversies, various scandals, various issues which we did not expect would happen. But Prabhupada predicted that in his fourth canto of the Bhagavatam about when the Acharya departs, that there is all kinds of problems. So there is an issue here. How will the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be spread to every town and village? And sometimes Krishna can act in very mysterious ways. Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and he can act in various ways which are beyond our comprehension, beyond our conditioned vision. In other words, Prabhupada started an institution to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. There was a Krishna consciousness movement that was started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself 500 years ago. And at different times since the departure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 1536 AD, there have been issues that have come up. There's references in the writings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, different agents of Kali infiltrated the Sampradaya and polluted the Sampradaya with various wicked doctrines, various false ideologies. And the same thing happened after Prabhupada departed, various falsehoods, various fabrications, various political interpretations, various nonsensical ideas which were never preached or instituted by the Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, just a little, we just had 5 inches of snow here last night and a little bit of allergies here. In other words, Srila Prabhupada presented the pure Krishna consciousness, but motivated people have tried to introduce their own interpretation on the basis of their speculations, mental speculation. Now, this is very important because we do know from the Chaitanya Bhagavat that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is going to spread to every town and village. And it could be that there may be worldwide changes in the whole structure, political structure, social structure, religious environment in order for this to happen. All the seeds are there, the books are there, the structure is there, the teaching is there, but it seems to be held up by the false ego and the misinterpretation of a certain class of people. Same thing happened in the post-1937 Gaudiya. People started whimsical ways, whimsical interpretation of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's teaching. Same thing happened in 1977. We do know that the people that were in charge of protecting the society started by Prabhupada from having this happen are the very same people that introduced all these nonsense ideologies, deviated ideas, and enforced them in the society, and drove away many people with these nonsense enforcement ideas. One of these foolish people said, let these Prabhupada disciples all leave. Oh, we've got our own disciples now, laughing away. Oh, really? Is that your idea? Well, that is not Prabhupada's idea. That is not the previous Acharya's ideas. That is not the idea of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So people, the best defense against ignorance is knowledge. You know, in the morning, at night, you don't need a flashlight to try to see where the sun is. The sun will come up in the morning. The sun of Srila Prabhupada's pure original teachings is coming back. This is a Vani-based movement based upon the pure, non-adulterated, non-interpolated original instructions of Srila Prabhupada, just like behind Ram Raghava's head. There's the picture of the original first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is how Prabhupada started his preaching in America. The original teachings of Srila Prabhupada is the real future of this movement, not the foolish Sahaji interpretation of people who claim that they consulted with higher authorities. What higher authorities are you talking about? That would be like going to court and telling the judge, I've consulted a higher judge than yourself, Your Honor. I've consulted a higher authority in your court. What do you think is going to happen to a foolish person who says that? It's not, his case is not going to go very far. Same thing with the spiritual life of those people who have insulted, publicly insulted and deviated from Prabhupada's teachings. And the first of these insults is this bogus idea that they consulted with higher authorities. Did they ever identify these higher authorities? No. And what did they do? They started to work to dismantle the aims and ideals of this movement. And the first thing is by changing his books. From he has seen the truth to they have seen the truth. And so many other nonsense changes. These people should be aware of this. People say, well, you keep repeating this thing. Yeah, we keep repeating because people don't get it. People have to avoid hearing from these deviants. Those who represent Prabhupada, those who faithfully represent Prabhupada and faithfully promote him, these are the people you should be hearing from. Not the Sahajiyas with their concocted nonsense mantras. Prabhupada in 1977, I was in Prabhupada's room with Gurukul children. We were chanting. So for those of you who know, when Prabhupada started in the movement, he used to chant Bhaja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. In 1977, we chanted that. And Prabhupada one time said, stop the kirtan. Why are you chanting? I said, Prabhupada, this is what you've given us. Prabhupada said, no, from now on you chant Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya. After the kirtan, I went to one of the secretaries and says, why is Prabhupada saying? And the secretary says, there is an ashram close to here where they chant Bhaja Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Hare Krishna Hare Ram. It's a Sahajiya group in Vrindavan. They were followers of a Babaji who invented his own mantra. He manufactured his own mantra. Prabhupada talks about this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, it may be good poetry, but it's not the standard instruction given by the Acharyas. And this is the problem we have. People manufacturing their own interpretation on the basis of mental speculation. Just like the patient who goes to the doctor, he thinks, I think I've got this disease. And the doctor's looking at him like, oh, really? let's run some tests and see what you really have. And when the tests come back, somebody like Ram Raghava, who's an experienced physician, will know, no, it's not what you think. It's a lot more serious. You may have cancer, or you may have diabetes, or you may have a very dangerous health condition, and you better take medication, you better change this, you better change that, don't do this, don't do that, stop eating this, stop eating that. Otherwise, there could be very serious consequences. And doctors know there's some patients, they're going to hear this, they're not going to follow the instruction. Some other patients are going to say, oh, wow, I've been warned here. This can be very dangerous. Let me change. Let me follow the doctor's instruction. So who is the transcendental physician who is advising all of us? That is Srila Prabhupada. Let us adhere and follow his transcendental instructions. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I don't mean to embarrass you, Ram Raghava. I'm just giving this as examples to explain in a convenient way.
Well, it's interesting to note that I recall when we were in Vrindavan for the Mayapur festivals, and Prabhupada was there at the Krishna Balaram Mandir, that this instruction came to all of us to change, to make sure that we no longer chanted Bhaja Sri Krishna. We were chanting that, to Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. We were instructed to change it to Jai by Srila Prabhupada, and we did. So these subtle points of correction of this philosophy are very important for all of us to know. And this historical evidence that we're giving to people concerning the history of ISKCON and the evolution of it to 2025, these details are very valuable lessons for everyone that's attending these classes, Tom. Remember that. This is not whimsical. We're very serious about this. All of you know it. And as the fact of the matter is, this is how we will all get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by staying strict to these principles and not be whimsical. I want to thank everyone for attending. There's a saying, I think it's in the Bible, the truth will set you free. So we are seekers of the truth, Krishna Katha Prabhu. And with that truth, when you hear the truth being spoken in association with like-minded devotees, birds of the same feather flock together, that's called Satchidananda. There is some bliss there. And I hope that all of you are feeling the same bliss that all of us are feeling. Maybe you'd like to say something, Krishna Katha. Would you like to make a comment? Do you feel blissful?
Yeah, this is always the nectar that I seek during my entire week of taking care of so many things, right? We are ultimately servants of our family, our children, our mother, our neighbors, our own body. So this is the one time where I get to really hear, besides listening to Prabhupada on tape all day when I drive around, but I get to hear from my godbrothers. So I didn't really want to say anything, but whenever you say my name, I try to acknowledge that I'm here listening. And this is the absolute truth. When you read that letter that Prabhupada wrote about the incident with Ban Maharaj, he made it very clear. He said, all of my disciples shall not associate with all of my godbrothers. That's pretty clear. But then so many of Prabhupada's disciples ran to his godbrothers as soon as he departed his manifested presence. So just see, there's so many incidents that, like Yashodanandana was saying, so much deviation. But the bigger picture is that Lord Chaitanya's movement is happening whether we deviate or we do not deviate. It's still happening regardless of our choices, our behaviors. And that's the glory and the beauty about the Supreme Lord, our Father, God. He can do whatever he wants. And it's going to happen regardless of our mental speculation or of our nice following, of our fixed up devotional service. Either way, God's will happen. So that's my takeaway for today. Thank you for calling on me, Prabhu. Thank you for all your service.
Well spoken, very well spoken. And I appreciate that very much, that you're able to contribute to the bliss of the discussions here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society. This is blissful for those that have a capacity to appreciate it. Some people don't, obviously, and they come and go like hopping on the train and hopping off the train. Sometimes they're there as the passenger, and other times they're walking along the track. So, Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss, is found here in these programs. It really is. And for those that are serious about it, they'll experience. The truth will set you free. And this truth is presented here in these programs. And thank you, everyone. We're going to be back next Thursday. Already the week has passed, Ram Raghava. It's extraordinary. And the 3 classes are gone. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, just march on. But we'll be back by Krishna's grace and the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to continue to use our energy, the human energy of the soul, to broadcast the truth to the globe. This is the most important group in the world, period. And all of you are the acharyas, the ones that will set the example wherever you are in this world for the people that you're affecting. And this networking of the holy name will carry on by your grace. So carry on and enjoy yourself, chant your rounds, and everything else that we've talked about today. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. 2 minutes and 54 seconds of the Hari Nam, led by Srila Prabhupada, is the next section of this program. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
è il conduttore oggi.
And thank you, everyone, for being part of this program today. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday at 8 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time here from Canada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.